Welcome back to another Sim Sunday, and welcome to MK Studios, New York LaGuardia, KLGA, in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. In this episode, I want to talk about the most frustrating payware add-on aircraft for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and of course 2024, in my opinion. I purchased the E170 and E195 on the 23rd of November 2023. And while I accept it is in beta and therefore work in progress, what's so frustrating for me about this aircraft, 2.5 years after purchasing this aircraft, it's still not finished, guys. It's still not in general V1 release. I've had so many issues with this aircraft which I'm going to talk about throughout this episode, but the version I'm back on currently is what's known as the stable version. So let's take a short flight from here in New York across to Cleveland, Ohio, and I'll tell you about my experience with the Flightsim Studios E-Jet. For me, the most frustrating thing about the Flightsim Studios E-Jets is their aircraft have got so much potential. They're modelled beautifully, but for whatever reason, FSS decided to take their eye off the ball on these E-Jets and move into developing the Boeing 727 rather than finish this aircraft first. And as you can see in the stable version, 2.5 years after I purchased it, there's still no vertical navigation, which means flying this on an online service like Flightsim, or as I'm doing here in Say Attention's AI, very tricky.
Undetermined drone activity in the vicinity of the airport. IDIS update delayed due to system maintenance. Expect brief HAL advise on course heading, altitude, and if flight following is requested. Read back all runway and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information Golf.
LaGuardia clearance delivery, Brickyard 5761, with hotel looking to pick up my IFR clearance to Cleveland.
Brickyard 5781, cleared to Cleveland, radar vectors, Newell, then as filed. Climb and maintain 4000, expect flight level 32010 minutes after departure. Departure on 120.4, squawk 7637, and we had to change your departure runway to 31.
Okay, Brickyard 5781. Cleared to Cleveland, radar vectors no. Initial climb to 4,000 feet. Expect flight level 320 10 minutes after departure, which is on 120.4. Squawk 7637, and you've changed my departure runway to runway 31. Brickyard 5781.
Brickyard 5781, read back correct. Ground is on 121.7. Safe flight, sir.
Flight deck, tug on the way. Bypass has been inserted. Just let me know when you're ready to start the pushback.
LaGuardia ground, Brickyard 5781. Request push and start.
Brickyard 5781, push and start approved, tail southwest.
Push and start approved, tail southwest. Brickyard 5781. Can you begin the push, please? Tail southwest.
Ground to flight deck, release parking brake, tug standing by for pushback tail southwest.
Parking brake released.
Roger, stand by. Ground to flight deck, clear for engine start in sequence.
Going to start number 2, then number 1.
Roger, start number 2, then number 1.
The logic that Flightsim Studios have built into this very heavily automated aircraft are actually very good. As I'll say throughout this episode, this little aircraft has got bags of potential, and it just is so frustrating that 2.5 years after buying it and multiple promises from the developer to finish this aircraft, it's still not done.
Ground to flight deck, pushback complete. Please ensure parking brakes are set. Standing by for confirmation of good engine start and report when ready for disconnect.
Parking brake is set. Go ahead and disconnect, please.
Roger, we're disconnecting tug. Stand by for confirmation that ground crew is clear.
Thank you very much for all your help.
You're welcome. Have a great flight.
LaGuardia ground Brickyard 5781, request taxi 1.
Brickyard 5781, runway 31, taxi via 17 Zulu.
Via 17 Zulu, taxi runway 31, Brickyard 5781. It's certainly not going to be a long taxi to runway 31 this morning. The threshold is just in front of us, guys. You can see other aircraft lining up. And as a result, I'll soon be handing over the ATC to my virtual co-pilot in Say Intentions AI. So from a startup and taxi perspective, this little E-Jet from FSS works very well indeed. Cabin crew seats for departure.
Copy, Captain Graham. Cabin is secure and crew are taking seats now.
Emily, can you take over the ATC, please?
I've got the radios, Graham. Let's get this done.
Brickyard 5781, contact tower on 118.7. Take care.
Contacting tower on 118.7. Brickyard 5781. LaGuardia Tower, Brickyard 5781. Good morning, holding short 31, ready for departure.
Brickyard 5781, LaGuardia Tower, runway 31, hold short, you're number 1 behind the 737 MAX.
Approaching runway 31.
Brickyard 5781, runway 31, line up and wait.
Runway 31, line up and wait. Brickyard 5781.
Brickyard 5781, runway 31, wind 300 at 5. Fly runway heading, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 31, wind 300 at 5. Fly runway heading, cleared for takeoff. Brickyard 5781.
Southwest 2940, contact departure.
Departure for Southwest 2940.
Runway 31 remaining. 6,700 feet.
Positive rate.
Brickyard 5781, New York departure, radar contact.
Climb and maintain flight level 300. Left heading 280, vectors to Newell, then on course. Brickyard 5781.
Again, I can't praise Flightsim Studios enough for their logic, because the departure logic in this little E-Jet is modelled very well in the sim. Once you've engaged the auto throttles and you actually push the levers forward, the mechanism takes over, just like it does in the real aircraft, and starts advancing the throttles forward automatically. However, don't expect to be following any vertical navigation in the flight management computer, because 2.5 years after I purchased this beta version, it's still not finished. There is no vertical navigation. At the end of 2025, we were able to uninstall this stable version and install an experimental version. And of course I did that, guys, and it was absolutely horrific. It was terrible. Probably the worst aircraft I have in the sim right now. I did persevere through a couple of upgrades to that unstable version, as I called it. And of course, Flightsim Studios, putting customer last, provided absolutely no technical support. I even joined in Osprey Airways live event on Flightsim from London Gatwick down to Porto in Portugal. British Av Geek himself, Luke, flew the FSS E-Jet 190, or was it the 195 in that episode? And from memory, I think it crashed for him at least twice during that video. So I was very glad to be flying the FS Labs Airbus A321 in that particular live event. Without a doubt, there are some issues in the unstable version, or as it's really called, the experimental version of this aircraft in Flightsim 2024. Even in Microsoft 2020, I had many issues with this aircraft at the beginning. So much so that I had a long running ticket with Flightsim Studios. Every time I loaded back into the aircraft after a time away from the sim, the instruments or the flight management computer simply wouldn't come alive. The Flightsim Studio guys simply blamed it on Microsoft, or should I say Asobo. In the end, I managed to find the solution myself. After I finished with the sim and after flying the ERJs, I would go into the packages folder and then the work subfolder, deleting the aircraft completely. And a year ago, at the time of editing this episode, when I moved across to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, it got a little better, but there were still problems. Now that I'm flying regularly in Flightsim 2024, after I finish all of my flights in the ERJs, I have to go into the WASM folder, then the work subfolder, and delete the aircraft, because if I don't, the flight management computer doesn't come on in the next flight.
New York Center, Blue Streak 5073, flight level 290.
Blue Streak 5073, radar contact.
Before anyone kicks off in the comments that I bought a beta version, I absolutely did buy a beta version, but honestly guys, I believed we're being promised a finished aircraft long before now.
Brickyard 5781, expect the tribe for arrival, upper transition, expect to descend in about 20 minutes.
Expecting tribe for arrival, upper transition. We'll expect descent in about 20 minutes. Brickyard 5781.
I think it was early 2024 when Flightsim Studios announced the Boeing 727 project. I have to admit guys that my heart sank. These guys were now investing in another project before finishing the first one. Yes, the experimental version, or the unstable version as I call it, did bring VNAV to the aircraft.
Brickyard 5781, contact New York Center on 132.875.
Contacting New York Center on 132.875. Brickyard 5781.
What I will say about the experimental version, on departure it actually flew very well following the VNAV profile in the FMC. However, descent paths were a completely different story altogether. ATC would instruct you to descend, and that is exactly what I do following the VNAV profile within the FMC. However, the aircraft would just fly through the set altitude, heading towards the ground. In the last flight that I attempted in the SAS E-Jet 195 from Stavanger up to Boda, I actually crashed. Guys, not very proud of it, but the aircraft simply was so unstable, it was completely unflyable.
Brickyard 5781, requesting descent to a lower altitude.
Brickyard 5781, descend via Tribe 4 to 6000 upper transition into Cleveland, altimeter 3016.
Descend via Tribe 4 to 6000, upper transition into Cleveland, altimeter 3016. Brickyard 5781.
As I said at the beginning of this episode, it's a real shame because this aircraft has got bags of potential.
Canada 705, descend and maintain flight level 210, cleared for the lining 3 arrival into Toronto.
At the time of recording this episode in June 2026, about a week ago, Flightsim Studios put out a press release where they said the E-Jets were just about complete. To be open guys, over the years I've heard this many times. And as a result, I just don't trust Flightsim Studios anymore with their PR. Of course, the last laugh could be on me, because this video isn't due to publish for at least 2 weeks after I made it. And by then, their so-called version 1 might actually be released. Yeah guys, right now I'm looking out for pigs flying over the skies of Ohio.
Brickyard 5781, descend and maintain 3,000 feet.
Descending and maintaining 3,000 feet. Brickyard 5781.
On today's flight, I think I did okay with my mental arithmetic, calculating in my head the descent path. However, I wasn't following any VNAV profile in the FMC, so this would have been absolutely no use on VATSIM.
Brickyard 5781, 21 miles from Boeing, turn right heading 020, descend and maintain 2,000 feet until established on the localizer. Cleared for the ILS runway 6 left approach.
Right heading 020. Descend and maintain 2,000 feet until established on the localizer. Cleared for ILS runway 6 left approach. Brickyard 5781.
At least on this aircraft, when you enter the final approach point on the FMC, the aircraft will lock onto it. Unlike the second most frustrating aircraft that I have in my Sing hangar, which I'll be talking about next week. So you know what to do, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon to be notified when that video is published. So at least the Flightsim Studios stable version will capture a localizer.
Brickyard 5781, contact Cleveland Tower on 124.5.
Contacting Cleveland Tower on 124.5, Brickyard 5781. Cleveland Tower, Brickyard 5781. Good morning. Established on the ILS runway 6 left approach.
Brickyard 5781, Cleveland Tower, roger, continue approach. Brickyard 5781, runway 6 left, wind 0706, cleared to land.
Runway 6 left, cleared to land, Brickyard 5781.
Approaching runway 6 left.
Approaching minimums, 800. 800, approaching minimums. Minimums. Sink rate. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Auto brake.
Yard 5781, welcome to Cleveland, exit at Golf 3 if able, contact ground on 121.7.
Exit at Golf 3 if able. Switching to ground on 121.7. Brickyard 5781. Cleveland ground, Brickyard 5781. Good morning, cleared of runway, ready to taxi to the gate.
Brickyard 5781, Cleveland ground, taxi to gate C3 via Golf 3, Golf Alpha, hold short of runway 24 left. Good day.
Gate Charlie 3 via Golf 3, Golf Alpha, holding short of runway 24 left. Brickyard 5781.
Welcome to Cleveland, Ohio. If you've made it this far in the video, I hope you agree with me that the Flightsim Studios E-Jets look an absolutely gorgeous little aircraft in the sim. And as a result, I hope you understand that my criticism is simply due to the length of time that it has taken Flightsim Studios to actually finish this aircraft, because 2.5 years after I purchased it at the end of 2023, it's still not complete.
Southwest 3199, request pushback.
Southwest 3199, push approved, expect taxi shortly.
Roger, pushback approved. Southwest 3199.
Brickyard 5781, cross runway 24 left.
Cross runway 24 left. Brickyard 5781.
The Embraer regional jets are without a doubt the backbone of US domestic short-haul routes within the country, connecting secondary destinations throughout the country with the major airline hubs dotted around the United States. And as a result, those of us who love flight sim and enjoy flying in the United States will want to fly these Flightsim Studios E-Jets. It's therefore just my opinion that Flightsim Studios took paid customer beta testing to a whole new level. I do apologise guys, I should have explained this earlier, but this is Cleveland Hopkins International Airport by Pacific Sim, or sometimes referred to as PAC Sim. It's originally for Flight Simulator 2020, but it works perfectly well in 2024. So as I bring this episode to a close, how would I sum up the Flightsim Studios E-Jet? You know what I'm going to say guys, it's got some great potential. I've said that so many times in this video so far. This aircraft does have some great, fantastic, awesome potential, but is let down by a developer who's taken their eye off the ball while providing poor customer services at the same time. But for me, it probably wouldn't have changed anything. I would have bought this aircraft anyway, because the Embraer E-Jets just open up a whole new way of flying in the sim. Thank you so much for watching.